YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we lived in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. The winds of change, they say. Well, this is more like the winds of cringe. And even though obviously I'm a devout follower of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, I am not somebody who supports the things that the government intends to actually do. Because for starters, when we talk about the school system, none of these children should be in the school system in the first place. Why shouldn't they be in the school system? Well, not just because God is not a part of the school system, because why would we want our children in indoctrination camps where all they learn is a history of lies? Because that's all school does, is teach lies. Then your whole perception of what the world is and what's going on in the world and what's happened in the past is all make-believe. So you're done from the beginning. That's what happened to all of us. We were put in the institutions and it took us a long time to deprogram from it. So I'm not a supporter of the school systems in general. I'm a supporter of teaching your kids trades and the Bible at a young age if you have children. That's what I would support, but that's just my opinion. This is just my channel, and I'm entitled to that opinion. But of course, the majority of people grew up in the school system. They don't even realize that they were indoctrinated with lies. The people who think they're awake don't even realize that everything they've learned in school is a lie. They think they're only awake because they support Trump and they don't fall for the liberal propaganda, but they don't realize both are the same exact thing. They're falling for Republican propaganda, which is just as bad as Democrat propaganda, because what they're doing is they're preparing Christianity to literally be destroyed. So if you haven't heard, this is a double-headed monster in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I talked about this a couple of months ago. They're introducing Bibles into the classrooms, right? So Christians are thrilled. They think it's a wonderful thing, even though, like I said, they shouldn't even have schooling in the first place. You learn nothing there. Most of these parents just dump their kids off there. That's what happened to me. I'm sure that's what happened to you. I'm not going to tell you how to raise your children. But again, the whole notion of schools 100 years ago, people were, they were teaching their children trades. We're all just like, this is the way the world is. This is the way it's always been. They don't realize that the whole way we've gotten to this nightmare that we're in is because of the school system, because everybody believes a certain group of people was always victimized and need to be protected, and you can't question them, right? We know who I'm talking about, obviously, the same ones who are, the synagogue of Satan, so to speak. And I mean, it's really incredible how we just sit back and we think, well, if we just get hold of the school system, we can make it better, instead of saying, well, the school system does nothing, because everybody who graduates learns no trade. The majority of us went out of college or went out of high school, got sat at a desk somewhere, or put in a factory somewhere. You do nothing. You learn nothing, right? Instead of teaching yourself or learning trades from people who know actual trades. So in Oklahoma, they're putting the Bibles in the schools, right? But of course, they're not just any Bibles. They're the Trump Bibles, right? And the Christians are thrilled. Remember the $60 Trump Bibles that were being sold with Lee Greenwood? Now I'll get into Lee Greenwood in a little bit. But the other thing going on is this Oklahoma superintendent is demanding, of course, that students watch him pray for Trump. So any Christian out there that sees this stuff, that actually is excited and thrilled and thinks this is great, they don't even realize that they're doing this deliberately to get people more against Christianity. By actually aligning Trump with Christianity, it's not going to lead more people to Christ. It's going to turn more people off. Because many people out there, they either love Trump or you really, really hate Trump. And now that Trump sided with Christianity, well, you can forget a lot of the young people out there turning to Jesus Christ, because there's a barrier between Jesus Christ and the Bible and them, and that is Donald Trump. They'll just refuse to pick it up. So Donald Trump, who is now conveniently a Christian, of course, doing these things like forcing people into the Bible at school, which of course you can't find salvation through being forced on you. You can only find it on your own. All you can really do is hand somebody a Bible and hope that they find salvation through it, or try to wake them up in ways, whatever ways you think works. Some people think preaching works. Some people, criticize me, but I've always felt that showing them all the negative stuff actually helps bring people to God, even though a lot of people just fall into the 501c3 way of preaching and thinking that you got to just stand there and talk about all the good stuff in the world. I talk about the negative stuff in the world to show you, because this is all biblical. This is prophecy being fulfilled. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that's negative, that talks about the wickedness in the world. So I've taken that stance most of my life, showing people the evil, hoping that it'll lead them to pick up a Bible and find salvation on their own. So this guy, of course, is doing what? The Oklahoma superintendent. He's demanding that students watch him pray for Trump. So this is a twofold cringer, right? Because anytime these people do these theatrical performances, it just makes me sick. These theatrical prayers, oh, prayer for Trump, right? And all the Christians are down. You know, Trump with the pictures for his believers group where he's down on his knees and everyone's touching his shoulder. I mean, it's incredible that the Christians out there don't see the mind control that's being done on them. But Matthew chapter 6, verse 6 through 7. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Well, that summarizes the video clip I'm about to show you from what's going on in Oklahoma. Enjoy the cringe.
New this morning, Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters is speaking directly to students in a new video praying for President-elect Donald Trump and announcing the purchase of 500 Bibles for Oklahoma AP government classes.
Good day, Oklahoma's Jameson Kiefover joins us live now. Jameson, this all came out just days after he launched the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism. What does this mean for schools?
Well, Shelby and Wayne, Walter says that he's following the educational principles laid out by President-elect Donald Trump. One of those principles being freedom to pray. And in a recently released video, Walters is inviting students in Oklahoma to pray with him.
I will now say a prayer. And to be clear, students, you don't have to join. But if you so wish, I'm going to go ahead and pray.
He goes on to pray for President-elect Trump and his team as they, quote, bring change to the country, and prays for teachers, students, parents, and schools to, quote, teach love of the country and for students to understand what makes America great. According to a report from State Impact, Walter sent a letter to districts directing superintendents to send this video to all students' parents. He also posted a video to social media announcing the purchase of 500 Bibles for AP government classrooms, but Walter says that's just the beginning.
It's very clear that the radical left has driven the Bible out of the classroom, which leads to a lack of understanding of American history. We will not stop until we've brought the Bible back to every classroom in the state.
In the video, Walters holds up the Bible that he says was purchased, looking similar to the Bible that's endorsed and sold by President-elect Trump. In the video, Walters says the Bibles include documents like the Constitution and Bill of Rights, also similar to the Bible that Trump sells, but as of right now, it's unconfirmed what Bibles were purchased. Now, earlier this year, Walters directed every school across the state to follow a mandate, including putting Bibles and teaching from Bibles in every classroom. That mandate is now being challenged in court by parents and religious groups. Also, OSDE planned to purchase 55,000 Bibles to follow that mandate, but the bidding process for a Bible vendor was then shut down. Walter says he is still looking into that matter, though. Reporting live for Good Day Oklahoma, I'm Jameson Kiefover.
So, of course, this guy's forcing people to watch him pray for Donald Trump. So what do you think psychologically that's going to do to people? You think that's going to make kids support Jesus Christ? Or you think that's going to make kids feel like it's being forced on them? Is it going to make people feel sick? Because it should. Because it's embarrassing. It's humiliating. And it just shows you that Christianity has put Donald Trump on the same level as God. Because eventually this prayer for Donald Trump is going to turn into them praying to Donald Trump. That's what we're headed towards. And people go, that's not going to happen. Oh, it is going to actually happen. It's getting closer by the day because we're actually seeing a point where we have the golden calf, these statues of Donald Trump that are being erected. The worship is through the roof, really. And now we're at a point where in a school, we have a superintendent praying for Donald Trump before school starts and making all the kids listen to the actual prayer. This in no way, shape, or form should be something that make Christians out there smile, because what you're seeing right now is the full establishing of Christianity with the Republican Party. And when they bring America down to its knees, which is the plan, America is not going to be prospering with Donald Trump. They're preparing you for World War III. They're preparing us to align with the synagogue of Satan. And of course, to go after Iran. This is all part of the World War III blueprint from Albert Pike that I've talked about, that everyone out there should know. These are scripted wars. There's blueprints they're following. And they're literally following. And when America comes down to its knees, it's going to be blamed on radicals. And you know who those radicals are going to be? They're going to be Christians. And suddenly the viewpoint and the way people perceive Christians is going to be no different than the way they've made people view Muslims. It's going to be the same thing. In America, Christians don't even realize the stuff that they're doing. They're like, we dealt with 4 years of trans in the library. Nobody should have allowed it to even get to that point, because none of it made any sense. None of the stuff they discussed made sense. What is a woman? We have documentaries explaining to us what women are. We have people in Congress on our tax money talking about if men can have babies. This is all insane stuff. And what really should have occurred is, of course, the government should have been removed from office and new people should have been put in place if we go by the structure of the government, right? Because that's what our constitutional rights are. If the government's not working for you, you can disband it. You could put new people in place. You could restructure the government. But of course, we just allowed them to do it. We allowed, hoping that we would go and vote, and then we could see change come with Donald Trump. But that's what they've wanted all along. Because now you're going to start seeing this cringe spread around the country. And what is the thing that was in that clip that you heard that really should sound alarm bells? The aligning of God and country. This is part of the Republican deception. Because the last I checked, when I read the Bible, I didn't see the word United States of America in it anywhere. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I did see it in there when it was regarding Mystery Babylon. I mean, even some people think it's the Vatican. Everybody has their own take on it. But some people maybe believe it's the United States of America. I mean, we do have those Babylonian statues all over the place. But I don't see America in there. So this whole brainwashing has obviously worked, where all these people think, well, this is a Christian nation, and this is a nation under God, and everything revolves around us, right? There's all these other countries in the world that a lot of Americans forget about. A lot of Christians in America forget about. They don't think about all these other countries. They think that everything in the Bible literally revolves around the United States of America. They literally think that this is the chosen country, that we are God's. I mean, that's what it seems like if you look at how Christians actually perceive things, right? So hearing him lining up Christianity, God, and country is exactly what they want to do. And don't forget, with this blueprint with Trump, if all of a sudden we go into World War III right away, would you be surprised if there's a draft? Would you be surprised if pastors are all of a sudden telling Christian parents that they should sign their children up to go and serve to defend God's people, Israel? Well, of course they'll be doing that. Of course they will, because that's the job of the 501c3. Could you see that coming? Because I certainly can. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was these Bibles, right? These $60 Bibles, which is just unbelievable. $60 for a Bible, which of course they should all be handed out for free. And I'm all for the Bible being in a school for the children to read the actual Bible. But I mean, again, I'm not really for anyone being in the school in the first place. But Lee Greenwood is what I wanted to discuss, because when this story first broke about Lee Greenwood, I covered it on the website and the video is still there. I cannot read specifically what I read on the website because the algorithm will read it and I'll be thrown off the internet. But Kathy O'Brien has a book, Transformation of America. Kathy O'Brien is a survivor of SRA. Now, one could look at Kathy O'Brien today in 2024 and say that she's clearly still under government control and has a handler, because while Kathy O'Brien in her book exposed Lee Greenwood for performing some of the most disgusting acts you could possibly imagine with children, Kathy O'Brien is aligned with Donald Trump and aligned with people like Roseanne. She's aligned with the Republican Party, which tells me that there's still handlers who are controlling her. And of course, if they wanted Kathy O'Brien gone, Kathy O'Brien would be gone. Just like if they wanted Donald Trump gone, Donald Trump would be gone. And just like if they wanted people like Alex Jones gone, they would be gone and fully removed and put in jail or worse, because they wouldn't allow them to speak freely. So in Kathy O'Brien's book, she speaks openly about the people she saw involved in these rituals. And at the time, Lee Greenwood was not very famous. He still isn't very famous. The only thing Lee Greenwood is known for is the God Bless the USA song. The one that they really rolled out right after 9/11, right? They got it out there. We saw Lee Greenwood everywhere. Trump goes to all his rallies and they play that song. It's his and Trump's Bible that's being sold, right? Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA Bible, where Lee Greenwood is side by side with Donald Trump. We've seen all the pictures of them together. So isn't it interesting to note that Lee Greenwood was called out in Kathy O'Brien's book? It wasn't as if, Kathy O'Brien was picking out like a really famous person like Beyonce or something and saying, I saw them involved. She's going through all the people that were involved in the trafficking that was going on. And Lee Greenwood's name came up multiple times, involved with really disturbing acts involving the Clintons, because that's how this stuff works, right? But now, of course, MAGA and all these people, and Kathy O'Brien doesn't say boo about it, doesn't bring that up, that Lee Greenwood was somebody that she exposed in her book, but she supports Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is aligned directly with Lee Greenwood. And of course, MAGA will only go down rabbit holes that are fed to them from the government themselves. So I believe Kathy O'Brien actually has valid, her book is valid, the things that Kathy O'Brien exposed are valid, but I think at some point they must have got a hold of her again. And when these people go through trauma-based mind control, they can get a hold of them pretty much and bring them back in if they try hard enough. And I'm sure they thought and saw a purpose for Kathy O'Brien to serve with the MAGA movement, the conservative movement, everything we saw with the Q movement that came in 2016 after the event at the Pizza Parlor. What did it do? It aligned conservatives, the conservative party, with conspiracies, which were things like SRA, which is ritual abuse, which, again, I expose over on the website and many, many videos for anyone out there that's new to all this stuff. Now, Kathy O'Brien did expose Lee Greenwood, so he is the one with Donald Trump. Don't ask me how. Most of these conservatives don't say anything. Most of these conservatives don't actually look into Lee Greenwood. They only look into the rabbit holes, again, like the flight log list that the government gave to them directly, that they think that they figured out on their own by doing research, when the government's the one who handed them the entire thing and told them to go run with it because it wasn't real. Doesn't mean the people involved in the list weren't involved in stuff and aren't involved in stuff, because they are. And guess what? None of them are ever getting arrested, and none of them are ever going to jail. So Oklahoma introduces the Trump Bibles into the classrooms, and then you get your superintendent demanding students watch him pray for Donald Trump. Yeah, this is great. And Christians out there are like, this is great. I love it. I want to go to Oklahoma. It's like, you think this is going to lead the youth out there who are already under tremendous propaganda day in and day out from what is being pushed on them by celebrities who are all communists? Do you think this is going to lead them to God, or is it going to make them feel like, oh my gosh, not only are they forcing God on me, they're directly lining up God and Donald Trump, the person that they hate the most? And then, of course, this whole notion of praying out in public, which has driven me crazy my entire life when I see these cringe photos of and I'm not saying that you can't pray out in the open and say a prayer, but this is a spectacle, okay? What you just saw in that clip that I played is a spectacle, right? It's like all these other 501c3 preachers like Joel Osteen that put on these huge prayer performances, and they make a spectacle of it. It's a mockery. That's what it is. The Bible specifically tells you to pray in secret, to enter into thy closet, right? So what's this guy do? Well, does the prayer on all the children. It says you better watch the prayer. You have to watch the prayer. He sends the prayer to the parents. And the prayer isn't thanking Jesus Christ for the sacrifice he gave on the cross for salvation through Christ. No. The prayer is, of course, for Donald Trump, because they have to align Christianity with MAGA, with Trump, because Christians are going to be blamed as the extremists for what comes. You'll see. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.